Imagine being able to train at pitches like this. Perfect grass, a beautiful backdrop, and best of all, almost always empty. You know, training here really gives you the best possible opportunities for growth. To be able to develop your skills in perfect conditions and to fully realize that potential you have as a footballer. But look, I know that everyone does not have access to pitches like this. And to be honest, while some of us have the incredible privilege of being able to train at pitches like this, I know that there's an even larger number of players that don't. And maybe you're one of them. That's why in today's video, I'm going to show you 4 ways how you can train like a pro footballer at home. So before we dive into the training, we first want to maximize the space that we have available to us to be able to train in. And I live in a very small apartment, but I will do my best to make sure that I have the most amount of space possible to be able to train in. So that's what we're gonna do first. And an incredibly important mindset to adopt is that you should always work with what you have. And sometimes that may not be the optimal thing, but if it's the only thing that we can do, then that's what we have to do, because that's the only thing that we can control. For example, I will not be able to train my finishing or my long-range passing in my apartment that is incredibly small. But what I can do is practice some small space, ball control, ball mastery, and a bunch of other things that I'll show you later on in the video. And the key is really to be creative with what you have, and I'll do my best to help you try to adopt a mindset like that here today. Okay, so I figure we can start off with the technical area of the game. And I have no equipment other than the ball and the things around me, but I'm gonna show you how you can be creative by just using the things that you have. Okay, so this is really the amount of space that we have available to us. And what can we do in this space? Well, actually a lot. First of all, I noticed that I have my bed right here, and I can use that as a wall, practice some passing, some first touch exercises that I will show you later on. But maybe I want to practice some dribbling and some ball mastery as well, but I don't have any cones, so what can I do then? Well, why not use some of these seasonings? You can take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 should be enough. And then we should just be able to place them out like so, with some distance in between. And suddenly we have created a cone weave from just some seasonings. Well, now you may think this is incredibly stupid, and how is this equivalent to training like a pro footballer? But it's not so much about what equipment we have or what facilities that we have access to. It's so much more about how focused and how intense we are when carrying out our training sessions. So now all of our circumstances will be different, but what I've done here is we have a bed or a wall to pass against, and we have a cone weave laid out here. So what can we do? Well, I can play a few passes, then go through the cone weave, and then just start over. And then just try to get into a good flow, and I'll show you how intense an exercise as simple as this really can be for you. And if you can't tell, I'm definitely out of breath, just from something as simple as this. And it doesn't have to be the exact same exercise that I did, because your home may look a little bit different, and then you adapt it. But always when training at home, exercises that target ball mastery, ball control, first touch kind of, passing, dribbling, I can practice all of that in here, although it's a very small space. But get creative with the space you have and make some courses. If you don't have seasonings like I do, you can take some books, put them out, dribble around them. Just get creative with what you have on the technical side. But now let's head into the next way that you can train like a pro footballer at home. Let's head into the tactical side. So Heading into the tactical side of the game, we will focus on some analysis. And this is really something that everyone can do because you're watching this video, so you have a device that is capable of playing video. All this is on my computer, but you can do it equally as good on your phone or a laptop or a TV or whatever you have. And also, if you don't have access to your own games, if your own games aren't recorded, you always have the possibility of watching high-level professional games. And sometimes it can be hard to find these replays of high-level games because of copyright issues, but I will show you a website where you can find these games and then use that for your analysis. So we want to dive into a website that's called footballia.net. And here you can find a bunch of high-level games from a bunch of seasons, and it doesn't really matter which one you take, but we can just take the first one that comes up. This is Chelsea versus Aston Villa from the Premier League 2010-2011. And then we have 1 hour and 40 minutes of match footage from a high-level Premier League game from 14 years ago. But there's more recent footage if you want to watch that. And due to copyright reasons, I can't show you too much of this footage. But what you can think of when you analyze, and one incredibly important thing that I learned a few years ago, is how progressive are the players when they have the ball. So there's basically 3 levels of how progressive and how aggressive you can be in your decision making. You have maintenance, where you keep the ball, you keep possession of it, and you can play forward. You have progression, which is slightly better when you look for that forward pass, break a line, progress the play forwards to score a goal. And the final one is chance creation, and that's the final pass or cross that leads to a goal scoring opportunity, because that's the most important thing in football. And the more often you can be more progressive in your play, the better player you will be. And I have videos where I talk more about this concept that you can watch on the channel. But for instance, if we look at one play here, we can see this defender here. He plays the ball forward, progressive, maintenance, we maintain ball, we can't play the ball forward. He receives it again, and he is pressured by the Aston Villa attacker. He beats that press, progressive. Then he plays a forward pass through the lines to his winger, which is a fantastic play. Then they lose it, but they progress the play forward. In this situation, he could have just chose to play the ball back to the keeper because it's easier, but he wanted to be progressive. He beat his man and he played a great pass forward, and so because of that, they advanced forward in the pitch and got closer to the opposition goal. So this is something that, if you're new to analysis, try to identify these situations in these games, how often these high-level players are progressive, and then try to take that into your own game and be more progressive and try to play forward as often as possible. And if there isn't a chance to play forward, okay, then you maintain the ball, but always try to be aggressive in your decision making and progress the play forward. And analysis doesn't have to be more difficult than that. And we can watch thousands of these different situations on here and gain that experience within our mind and our understanding of the game that we then can take with us onto the pitch when we play ourselves. And then we head into the mental side, and this is something that I think is probably the most important thing in the game, and a bunch of high-level players always say the same thing, that the mental side is really the side that allows them to play at such a high level, and I completely agree. But what can you do and what actions can you take to improve the mental side by yourself? One of those things is visualization, and if you haven't heard about visualization, it's a technique that you can use to imagine stuff within your head, and then magically, it seems, you will be able to do those things out on the pitch later on. And this may sound like a load of crap, but there is actually studies and science that is backing this up. And this works because when you think of something and you visualize that within your head, if you, for example, see yourself dribbling, you're taking a player on out on the field, if you imagine that in your head, you're activating the exact same pathways within your brain that you're activating when you're actually playing the game in real life. So you can actually train without being out on the pitch. Another thing is that visualizing is kind of hard when you first get into it. It can be hard to vividly imagine certain scenarios, but as with everything else, the more you practice it, the easier it will get. And also, the more consistent we are, the easier it will get over time. But as we start out, it can be difficult and it may be frustrating because you can't vividly imagine yourself doing these things. But we can start with a visualization session for 5 minutes. So set a timer on your phone for 5 minutes and let's head into some visualization. And to help you out in the process, you can use something like, I found this playlist right now called Visualization Music on Spotify. You can find guided sessions where they talk you through different scenarios, but I will put on this music just for me to be able to shut out my environment a bit better and focus, get into the flow of visualization. Let's do that for 5 minutes. You know, always when I take the time to do something like this, you definitely notice that it actually can help. And I think it's kind of incredible because sometimes when I do this, I can feel my legs, you know, the muscles activate in my legs. For example, when I'm about to take a shot, I can feel the muscles tensing up in my leg like I'm actually about to take a shot. And that just shows that visualization actually works. Of course, you should always complement that with real training because that will give you the results faster. But being able to utilize something like visualization when you don't have the opportunity to go out on the field or, you know, don't just have the opportunity to train like you want to, you can always use a tool like visualization to train, to help you prepare before games, or to help you relax after a game. So it's really an incredible technique and an incredible tool to use to improve in your career. So heading into the last area of the game, we will focus on the physical side. And I will perform exercises where you won't need any equipment whatsoever. I will not walk you through the exercises in detail. I have plenty of videos where I do that on the channel, but I will show you that you don't need to do advanced exercises for you to get in an intense physical footballer session. And once again, it doesn't have to be advanced. The most important thing is how intensely we do the exercises. So there you go. There is 4 ways that you can train like a pro footballer at home. It isn't what exercises you do or what equipment that you have access to. That's not how you train like a pro footballer, but it's what your mindset is when approaching a session and how creative you can be using what you have at this moment in time. And then the goal is, of course, always to step up and acquire more things over time. But we have to work with what we have right now, and then eventually, as we improve, get better, then things will improve on that side as well. We may have access to a pitch in a year's time, 2 years' time. We may have access to great equipment that will help us out in the future. But work with what we have right now, and anyone can really train like a pro footballer. It's about the mindset you have when approaching a session. But that's it for this time. Take care, and I'll see you very soon in the next one. Bye.